boys and girls, pull up a hose. It's time for the Fireman Fritzy and Willie Show.
Hey, welcome there, boys and girls. Fireman Fritzy here with another show for you. We have all sorts of special treats. I've been waiting for my special agent here, Willie Ketchum. I don't know where he is.
Fireman
Oh, here he
Fritzy.
is now.
Fireman
Hey,
Fritzy.
Willie, how are you? What have you been doing?
I was in the backyard, and there was Louie was out there digging a hole.
Yeah?
You know, dogs go for a ball. Oh, hi, we're not alone today.
No, we have
So in the
friends.
backyard was Louie, and he was digging and digging. I said, Louie, what are you doing? He goes, rah, 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 which translates to, he found this bone.
What is this?
I don't know.
Who is this?
That's a better question. It's not Geraldo Rivera. No. Let me see. Look!
It's Jimmy Hoffa.
Jimmy Hoffa. Hi, Jimmy.
Oh, my.
Finally.
Well, we uncover some more clues a little later on.
Yes.
Who do we have as our first guest?
Well, we're going to be meeting Clancy and Willie and Carmen the nurse and everybody.
But first, Clancy.
Clancy, Lord the boom, 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 boom.
That's right, legends from TV kid shows with Clancy, Willie, and Carmen the nurse, and a kids tractor pulling contest. But first,
Commercially sponsored color cast to originate in the upper Midwest. Brought
they've
to
been
you through
referred
the
to
facilities
as
of
the golden
WCCO
years of
TV,
television.
Channel
The
4.
1950s and
We at
60s,
WCCO
where local
TV
heroes of
are
the boob
proud
tube
to
were
be
names
part
like
of
Clellan
primary
Card, who
color
portrayed
television.
Axel, part Norwegian, part Swede, but 100% shtick.
Why did the little boy get out of bed and light a match, it said? He wanted to see if he turned off the light. Oh, ain't that a rascalino, though? He lit the match to see if he turned off the light.
Another local folk hero, Roger Awesome, played the role of engineer Casey Jones.
And for good lunch? Well, so am I. Let's see what we have for our lunch today.
The early days of local television were also the introduction of local newscasters we could actually see. A Channel 4 news team consisted of John Gallos, Dick Enroth, Cedric Adams, Chick McCune, Raleigh Johnson, and E.W. Zebarth. Main anchors being Cedric Adams, Chick McCune, and John Gallos.
When my dad first started in 1950 at Channel 4, he was an announcer, and pretty soon he was doing newscasts, and he did weathercasts, and he was also a sportscaster.
Yikes, Batman! Gallos was even a sportscaster? He must have been talented.
And I think they just had a meeting.
They kind of had a meeting, I think.
About half an hour
Yeah.
before the show, Harry and Alan Lotsberg, Willie Ketchum, and John Gallos would get together and say, let's see now, what should we talk about today?
There was a lot more ad-libbing in those days. I mean, they didn't really script a lot of
it wasn't
stuff, did they?
scripted.
Ad-lib.
No,
Didn't script it?
it was not scripted. No, they just go over some ideas and then just pretty much wing it, you know.
John wasn't up to doing an interview at the time of this taping, so daughter Nancy and Steve, his son, are filling in.
You know, anybody in their 40s or 50s or so, maybe even late 30s that grew up here in the Twin Cities remember watching Clancy the Cop on TV. And he was in a detective agency along with his assistant Willie Ketchum, played by Alan Lotsberg, very talented, and they got into all kinds of mysterious predicaments, you know, inside the detective agency.
Auntie, do you realize this is tough and terrible? One of the world's worst explosives, especially when it's near heat.
Oh, you mean heat like on a candle, Clancy?
Especially like a candle,
Like
Auntie.
on that candle, Clancy?
Yes. Uh-oh! Look out!
Clancy! Oh, Clancy! Oh, no!
He had the looks for Hollywood, but John was more content making his mark in the Midwest. As for the kid shows, they started for Gallos in the late 50s.
Peter, see, you bunnies are awful busy about this time of year.
The first kid show he did was Commodore Cappy. And that was a show that he did back in 1957. And he was a captain on a submarine.
And then he went on to be the Keystone Cop with the bell helmet and the mustache, and his character's voice was like Jerry Colonna. You remember Bob Hope's sidekick?
Yes.
Jerry Colonna, and he talked like this: "Hello, kiddies. Ah, yes. Who wants a giant Tootsie Roll? Say aye." After the Keystone Cop, he became Clancy the Cop, more of a regular modern-day cop. And it was a great show for kids to watch. You know, he used to recommend books for children to read at the library.
John's goal as Clancy was to be a constant reminder to kids that the cop was their friend. He never wavered from that philosophy.
You know, a lot of kids whose parents got divorced or whose father passed away looked up to Clancy the cop as kind of a father figure, you know, somebody that you could trust and be a friend.
Yes, Clancy was a friend, a babysitter, and a teacher.
Stand up, Carrie Hoganson. Oh, it's a bluebird. Wave over there, Carrie Hoganson. Carrie is 8 years old. Carrie, is it Carrie?
Yeah.
Carry me back to old Virginia. And Carrie goes to Edgecombe School in St. Paul. Carrie, before you sit down, are you celebrating something special right now? Huh? What is it?
A birthday.
For what?
Bluebirds and campfire girls.
You mean this is the birthday of the Campfire Organization?
Yep.
Well, congratulations.
How old are you now, Carrie, as an organization?
I'm going to be 8 soon.
How about the organization? How old is that?
76.
Hey, let's give her a big hand. Wow, that's a pretty good.
Notice the guy with Clancy? That's Willie Ketchum, played by the talented Alan Lotsberg.
Hi, Clan.
Vivi, you remember that box of TNT powder that we keep back in the clues closet?
Yes, what about it?
It's gone, disappeared.
Disappeared?
Yes.
Clan, do you realize that that stuff gets into the wrong hands? Why, it could blow this agency to kingdom come.
Clancy found it a little tough constantly talking to himself, so Clancy and Willie teamed up until 1979.
My own little Willie Ketchum. Oh, Willie, what have you and Auntie Ketchum been up to in the lab?
Oh, Clancy, we got a big surprise going back there. You know, today's a special day.
We'll talk more with Alan Lotsberg later in the show to get his take on those golden years.
Believe it or not, all those children's programs ran about 20 years here on Channel 4's. Some of the best times, the most fun I ever had.
We mentioned the versatility of John Gallos, newsman, weatherman, sports, then kid shows. He also had the longest-running religious show in the nation, 31 straight years. Plus, he hosted a Laurel and Hardy comedy show that had a 15-year run. It became so popular, it preempted CBS programming during midweek nights in prime time. John was really using his head in one of those show's most memorable moments.
He started talking, and all of a sudden, the poster fell on his head. And to my dad's credit,
I can't believe he didn't get hurt.
well, you know, it made a kind of a crashing sound, but the first thing my dad said was, save that tape, you know, because he wanted to keep it for posterity.
Ouch, that hurts.
So is it any wonder John Gallos was named to the Minnesota Broadcasting Hall of Fame in 2002?
Brownies all know this song. Let's do it with emotions. Remember that song all together? I have something
in my pocket that belongs across my face. I keep it very close in hand in a most convenient place.
He let kids sing, be themselves, and to this day he's never stopped being a kid himself. Visits from the late Bob Keeshan, who played Captain Kangaroo, would make frequent visits to Clancy, Willie, and Carmen the nurse. But in the late 70s, an end to shows for kids was in sight.
I suppose the main reason, you know, it just came down to economics. You know, the stations would rather just throw in a syndicated show as opposed to having a locally produced show with a crew.
Where it costs a little more money.
That's right, yeah.
Well, I think the show that actually replaced him finally was the Donahue Show. Phil Donahue started that morning talk show format, you know, with the audience, which was very successful. But that's, I think, when they decided to replace Clancy, when Phil was on in the morning.
And take the kids out of the picture.
Yeah,
Isn't that sad?
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, we sure do miss you, Clancy. You too, Willie. You too, Carmen. And we'll be back to hear from Alan Lotsberg, who played Willie Ketchum, and Mary Davies, who starred as Carmen the nurse.
Ah, wasn't that something, Clancy?
That's great to see those old Clancy and Willie shows. Wait, but that's almost 40 years ago, my goodness.
Yeah.
I finally figured it out. Somebody once said, alas, poor Yorick. I think Shakespeare said that to somebody. But it
said it to me.
Oh, that you're that old.
I am that old.
You
I'm
knew
as
Bill
old as-
Shakespeare? That's incredible.
I called him William.
That's my name, Willie.
Hey, give me that a second. Wait,
sure.
why don't you see what's ahead on the show here?
Okay, let's see what's on the head on the
Yeah.
show. Okay, let's pull up these little binoculars and make an adjust. Ah! There, Birdie with the yellow bill hopped upon my windowsill, cocked a shining eye and says, "What's it in the road? Ahead?" Beep boop.
I think it looks more like Willie and Carmen coming up, don't you?
Don't go away.